But I have one question regards to Anapana and nimitta. Just because the Anapana Sati Sutta or the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta on the Anapana side, which is really truncated, does not talk about nimittas, it does not necessarily mean that those Anapana practices that talk about nimitta is wrong, right? Because after all, it is not, even the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta is not like a meditation manual from A to Z. And even in Mahasi's tradition, there can still be nimitta.
Maybe Asma Kumara would like to respond to that.
If you practice the Mahasi method, is for those of you who have practiced for a long time and you've gotten some concentration, it's possible to have mental images coming up because of the that concentration on whatever. So, but the difference here is that in the Visuddhimagga's idea is that you work on the nimitta. You use the nimitta, you pay attention to that, and you get absorbed into it. Whereas if you're not doing that type, you don't pay attention, you don't give any special attention to that. And like, for example, in the Mahasi tradition, you'll be encouraged to just know, oh, seeing, and just be done with it. You don't do anything further with that. So that's the big difference there.
It's not to say that there's anything wrong. It's not to say that it may not happen. It does happen. But whether one should follow that nimitta or not is another question. Right? Now, one bhikkhu who made some research into this nimitta, and I think he wrote an article called The Mystery of the Breath Nimitta regarding Anapanasati. Right? Yeah, something like that. And you can find that from the internet. And he researched into the practice of Anapanasati, instructions on the practice of Anapanasati found in the suttas in Vimutti Marga and Visuddhi Magga. Vimutti Marga is another manual on meditation that was supposed to have been written earlier, before the Visuddhi Magga. And modern scholars, and the Sanskrit or the Pali version of Vimutti Marga is no longer available, but there is a Chinese translation which has been translated into English. It's called the Vimutti Marga, the path of liberation, whereas Visuddhi Magga is the path of purification, or the path of purity. In the Vimutti Marga, when it comes to instructions, detailed instructions about Anapanasati, it says that in the course of watching the breath, one may see various nimittas arising. And some of these nimittas are visual in character, some of them are olfactory or tactile in nature, like a sense of very smooth cotton. Right? And it expressly said that these nimittas should not be followed. You should come back to your breath. Whereas in the Visuddhi Magga, it's the opposite. Visuddhi Magga says that when these nimittas arise, then when the breath is not, is so subtle you cannot follow, then you follow the nimittas. Alright? You follow the nimittas. You follow the nimittas, and then eventually you drop the breath and you just get absorbed in the nimittas. Alright? Now, if you look at Anapanasati Sutta, from the first tetrad until the last tetrad, there is awareness of breathing all along, isn't it? Even when you're doing the last tetrad, where you're talking about contemplating impermanence, contemplating abandoning, contemplating relinquishment, contemplating cessation, you are still breathing. Yeah, you're still breathing, and you're aware of your breathing. Yeah, you say, contemplating impermanence, I shall breathe in, I shall breathe out. Contemplating abandonment, I shall breathe in, I shall breathe out. So it seems that there is an awareness of it, of the breathing process. In the case of the Visuddhi Magga sort of jhana, where the mind gets absorbed into a visual nimitta, there is no more awareness of the senses. Not talk about the breath. Everything else, has been cut off. There's just absorption into that conceptual object.
Can I offer a third option?
Okay?
Can I offer a third option?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, on the one hand, we have Mahasi's method, which says you just no, the nimitta until it goes away. On the other school of thought is in Visuddhimagga, where the mind sinks in or merges in with the nimitta. But from my understanding, there's one more option where you can actually use the nimitta to develop the brightness and the concentration of the mind without actually merging into the nimitta or the concentration of mind. Then this would actually align more with the anapana practice, wouldn't it?
How?
The Sutanta version, when you talk about when the mind is concentrated, you know. When the mind is not concentrated, you know. You can also see the development of the concentration.
Yeah, you can look back. If you look back at the mind, look back at the feelings,
Yeah, but because what I'm saying is that because of the building up of the concentration, the nimitta is the natural process, so to speak. But instead of being absorbed into it, you use the nimitta as an aid, as like an object for the mind, right? To develop further the brightness and the concentration of the mind.
What for? What for?
That would align with the Chittana practice. When the mind is concentrated, he knows.
Yes, it's. I guess it's also possible. You can make use of the nimitta. In fact, all these meditations are tools. Tools designed by the Buddha in order to help us to improve our state of mental composure, and so that we can penetrate more deeply into the true nature of reality. So it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you know what you're doing, and that it is geared or oriented towards understanding phenomena in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta and conditionality, and purifying yourself of the mental defilements. Okay? So it's possible. I'm not saying it's possible. There are people who do have that. It's just a matter of whether, in accordance with the suttas, to follow that or not. Right. So if you interpret it in the way that you said just now, it can still be seen as in accordance with Anapanasati Sutta, the fourth tetrad, the third tetrad. In fact, there's one sutta in Majjhima Nikaya called the Majjhima Nikaya 128. In Majjhima Nikaya 128, there is a conversation between Venerable Anuruddha and the Buddha talking about nimittas and light. And let's look at what he says. He says that as far as Anuruddha was sort of reporting to the Buddha his own personal experience. It has happened that as we were remaining heedful, ardent and resolute, we perceived light and the vision of forms, rupa nimitta. Okay? But soon after that, the light disappeared, together with the vision of forms, and we can't become attuned to that theme. Then the Buddha consoled him by saying that you should become attuned to that theme. Oh, sorry, that theme here is a nimitta. Right, the vision of forms is rupa dasana, I think. So you should become attuned to that nimitta. The Buddha answered, you should become attuned to that nimitta. I don't know what it means by attuned. Look at the Pali. And not stated. Just look at how it's used. What is the meaning of nimitta? No, it doesn't. He said he perceived light and the vision of forms. Alright? So the light and the vision of forms are not the nimitta. Okay? Because he says, but soon after that the light disappeared together with the vision of forms, and we can't become attuned to that nimitta. Nimitta here could mean cause. What is the cause? What is the reason why the light and the vision of forms disappeared? Then the Buddha said, you should become attuned to that theme. But look at the word. What is the Pali word for attune? Oh, tancha nimittang napati vijjhama. Could not penetrate. I would translate it as could not penetrate. So kopana no obaso nachira seva antaradhayati dasanancha rupanang. Okay, so Tanja nimitang napati vijjhama. This is the Pali for, but soon after that, the light disappeared. The light disappeared is obaso antaradhayati. Okay, obaso is the light, and antaradhayati is disappeared. Dasanancha rupanam, yeah, plus the vision of the forms also disappeared. Tanja nimittam napati vijjhama, and I could not, or we could not penetrate that nimitta. Okay, what is a nimitta here? A nimitta is not the vision of the form, it's not the light, you know. Nimitta here is the cause. Yeah? So the Buddha answered, you should become attuned to that. You should tanko panavo anuruddha nimittam pati vichitapam. Yeah. The nimitta should be penetrated, right, by you. Then the Buddha explained his own experience when he was a bodhisattva. Before my awakening, while I was still only an unawakened bodhisattva, I too perceived light and the vision of forms, and soon after that the light disappeared together with the vision of forms. The thought occurred to me, what is the cause, what is the reason why the light disappeared together with the vision of forms? Then it occurred to me, see, he's asking the question, now he's trying to find out the cause, why did it disappear? Then it occurred to me, uncertainty arose in me, and because of the uncertainty, my samadhi fell away. When my samadhi fell away, the light disappeared together with the vision of forms. I will act in such a way that uncertainty will not arise in me again. Right? So here, the nimitta here refers to the cause. You know, it's not talking about the vision of the forms, it's not talking about the light.
But by following that logic, if he has seen the causes, then he would actually be able to develop the bright,
the light, yes.
the light, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
on.
yeah,
And
yes,
what
yes.
happens next?
So he goes on to say, the Buddha goes on to say, as I was remaining heedful, ardent and resolute, I perceived light and the vision of forms, and then soon after that, the light disappeared together with the vision of forms. The thought occurred to me in the same way. What is the cause? What is the reason why the light disappeared together with the vision of forms? After he asked the question, you know, the knowledge or the wisdom arose. Oh, it's because of inattention, amanasikara, you know, not paying attention. It's because of, you know, this whole passage is repeated. Then the next one says it's because of sloth and torpor. Then the next one says it's because of fear. And the next one is because of elation. Next one is because of inertia. You know, arose in me, and because of that inattention and so forth, my samadhi fell away and so forth. So he made a resolution. I will act in such a way that these causes will not arise again in future. Right? Because everything is a matter of cause and conditioning, right? If you understand the cause, you try to recreate the cause or subdue or abandon the cause, right? Okay, so in the end, what happened? He went through a whole series of all these mental defilements, you know, not just the 5 hindrances, all different types. Then, then the same thing occurred to me. The light disappeared, and why is it? Because, and then you try to find out the cause, and the cause is because of longing, because of the perception of multiplicity, because of excessive absorption in forms arose in me. And because of the excessive absorption in forms, let me look at what he says here by absorption. Ati nijjayitatang. Okay, this comes from the word jhana, you know. Ati nijjayitatang, which means the state of putting in too much meditative attention, meditating too much on it. Ati nijja, you know. Ni means permanent, to excessive meditation. Due to excessive meditation, which is translated here by Ajahn Thanissaro as excessive absorption, right? And then because of that, his things fell away. And then later on, he went on to say, when I knew uncertainty is a defilement of the mind, I abandoned the uncertainty. There was a defilement of the mind. Similarly, with inattention, sloth and drowsiness, fear, elation, inertia, excessive persistence, sluggish persistence, longing, the perception of multiplicity, and excessive absorption in forms. As I was remaining heedful, ardent, and resolute, I perceived light without seeing forms. I perceived light without seeing forms. Or I saw forms without perceiving light for a whole day, a whole night, a whole day and night. The thought occurred to me, what is the cause, what is the reason? Then it occurred to me, when I attend to the nimitta of light without attending to the nimitta of forms, I perceive light without seeing forms. When I attend to the nimitta of forms without attending to the nimitta of light, I see forms without seeing light for a whole day, a whole night, a whole day and night. As I was remaining heedful, ardent, and resolute, I perceived limited light and saw limited forms. I perceived unlimited light and saw unlimited forms for a whole day, a whole night, a whole day and night. Then the thought occurred to me, what is the cause, what is the reason, why such things occur? Then it occurred to me, when my samadhi is limited, my sense of vision is limited. When my samadhi is unlimited, my sense of vision is unlimited. With an unlimited sense of vision, I perceive unlimited light and see unlimited forms for a whole day, a whole night, a whole day and night. I have abandoned those defilements of the mind. Let me develop samadhi in 3 ways. So I developed the samadhi with directed thought and evaluation, vitaka and vichara. I developed samadhi without directed thought, but with a modicum of evaluation. I developed samadhi without directed thought or evaluation. I developed samadhi with rapture, without rapture. I developed samadhi accompanied by enjoyment, accompanied by equanimity. Various types of samadhi. He didn't use the word jhana, but this seems to suggest the jhana factors. When my samadhi with directed thought and evaluation was developed, when my samadhi without directed thought but with a modicum of evaluation, etc., all the various types of samadhi was developed, then the knowledge and vision arose in me. My release is unprovoked. Wow. This is the akupame vimutti. How is that usually translated? This is Ajahn Thanissro's translation. Akupame vimutti. My release is unprovoked. This is my last birth. Ayantima jati. This is my last birth. There is no further becoming. Akupa vimutti. I don't know, that's the way he translated it. Okay, let me see what we can make out of akupa. Akupa, let's see what it says. Akupa, unshakable. Unshakable is my liberation. That is the usual translation. But Ajahn Thanissaro prefers to translate it as my release is unprovoked. Okay, that was what the Blessed One said. Satisfied, Venerable Anuruddha delighted in the Blessed One's words. So what he's doing is training his mind to get various levels of samadhi until his mind had enough samadhi. Then he directed it to insight, to understand the true nature of reality and to be liberated. So I hope that answers the question somehow. Or does it open more questions?
Yala, what's the rupa that I was talking about?
Forms, you can see forms.
Meaning with the eyes closed, he
eyes
saw
closed,
forms
see forms
in his mind.
See forms in your mind. He doesn't call that nimitta. Nimitta, it seems like a cause, Yeah, it refers to the cause. In fact, in most suttas, nimitta refer to cause, not another visual image in the mind.
So this form, like for Venerable Anuruddha, he could see other beings and all that. Does it mean those forms?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why, because this sutta is of particular significance because Asma Anuruddha is foremost among the Buddha's disciples in being able to perceive, who has the Dibbacakkhu, divine eye, that can perceive forms out of this world. So he's actually talking to the Buddha about his own experiences. Maybe before he attained all this, before he mastered he attained mastery of the Dibba Chakku. So the Buddha was guiding him, on what to do. So you can see that, the hindrances are not just limited to 5, there are so many different types of hindrances, and these are all defilements of the mind that can obstruct your meditative progress. So the important thing about this sutta is that you have to keep on asking yourself. Every time something happens to you, you have to ask, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Look at the cause. Because there's no one there that's doing anything, it's all causes and conditions, conditioning, causes and conditions.
But I have one question related to this sutta. There seems to be a missing link that is not mentioned here.
That's right. That's between the the samadhi.
The jhanas and the
no jhana is mentioned.
assume that it refers to jhanas, because you talk about vitaka, vichara, and all those other things, all right, and up to the ceto vimutti.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a missing, something missing there.
Yeah.
How did he go from there to there? Yeah, it's not stated.
That is
usually what is the normal process found in the Digha Nikaya is that after they've developed all these psychic powers, then he would direct his mind to the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. He would direct his mind to the ending of the asavas. This is the asava, this is the cause of the asava, this is the cessation of the asava, this is the way leading to the cessation of the asava. That is the stop.
Yeah. The other thing not mentioned here is actually also the Tevijja.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't, because remember in the traditional story we talk about the Buddha reviewing his past lives and all those things, developed the third eye, all those are also not mentioned here.
Exactly. I mean, this is just an excerpt. An excerpt he took out from his experience before his awakening, to guide Anuruddha. If you will tell him everything from A to Z, might be too confusing.
I know. What I wanted to conspiracy theory again, whether this sutta could actually have been added in later.
Who knows?
Yeah.
No, nobody knows. The most important thing, as I said, is don't worry too much. Does it work for you? Does it have any relevance to you? If it doesn't, then forget it. Go and look for something else. There are thousands of suttas that you can get inspiration and guidance. Okay, any more questions before we go on? Yes, please.
But since there's so much scholarly work, suttas and Tipitaka, do you foresee the Tipitaka being revised in the near future?
You see, that's a good question. The research work that has been done, very commendable research work that has been done currently by modern scholars, unfortunately mostly done by lay people. There are a few monks like Sma Analayo, Atan Sujato, and Bante Dhamajoti, K.L. Dhamajoti, who is the world's authority on Sarvasti Vada, it seems, although he's supposed to be a Theravada monk. Right? Unfortunately, they are not people in the bureaucracy of the Sangha councils. They are scholars. And the people who decide whether to revise or not to revise, are not the scholars, but the Sangha bureaucracy, the Sangha council people. And unfortunately, most of them are not open to such ideas. They are very narrow-minded, very provincial, because of the limitations of their own language. They don't know English, they don't know, they are very, for example, the Thais, they only know Thai and Pali. The Burmese know only Burmese and Pali. And the literature that is about this comparative studies covering Tibetan, Sanskrit, Chinese and Pali sources are not available to them. And even if it's available to them, their mindset is quite set. They are very orthodox, very conservative. So this is a big stumbling block for any revision of the Pali scriptures. And that is also one of the reasons why the Pali tradition has retained its purity, so-called purity, compared to the other traditions. The other traditions, they have keep on having more and more texts. Although we cannot deny that there are also many texts that have been added into the Pali canon, they are appreciably less than what has been added in other traditions. So I don't see any possibility of it being revised officially, although it may be revised by objective, open-minded thinkers in their own interpretation and practice of the Dhamma. Okay? Anyone else? Yes, please.
Bhante, I'm interested to know your interpretation of the second line, simply to the extent necessary for knowledge for repeated mindfulness. Does this sound like a dry insight or momentary concentration type of interpretation?
Which one?
Page 28,
28.
second line, continuing from the...
Or else is mindfulness that there is a body is established simply to the extent
Simply to
necessary
the extent, yeah.
for knowledge for repeated mindfulness.
Yes. Does it sound like a dry insight or momentary?
Well, actually, this whole Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta is the Bible for the dry insight practitioner. Particularly those parts in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta that is connected with direct experience. You know, direct experience means you can really experience, like for example, the elements in the body, you know, your breath, the movements, and so forth. But the dry insight meditation teachers don't teach asubha, don't teach 32 parts of the body, because there is not something that you can experience. You know, it's something that you conceptualize, you imagine, and you think and reflect about. So to the dry insight meditators, that is a no-no. You know, for them it's ultimate realities, paramattha dhamma, which we will talk about later, maybe tomorrow.